All right, welcome into the Boston Sports Beat. John Zannis alongside Boston Sports Journal's Greg Bedard. And Greg, we're here, close, couple days away. Belichick versus Brady in Foxboro. Has your thinking on this game changed at all as the week has gone on? We've been talking about it. You've been dealing with it. You've been looking at film. Any developing opinions as we're heading into Sunday?
Well, I think number one, I think there's a path for the Patriots to stay in this game. I think it's very tight and narrow. I think they borrow from, equal parts of, their game plans in the past against the Chiefs and the Bucs and things like that, which is basically like they want to shorten the game as much as possible. Defensively, you do that by, playing a lot of two deep safeties, keeping everybody back, making the Bucs have to go 6, 7, 8 yards at a time down the field. Hope that, you get a bounce here or there. I think offensively they're not going to be able to run the ball against this Bucs front. Not as long as Vita Vea and Ndamukong Suh are in the middle. I mean, if they might see some personnel matchups if the Bucs have to rotate on the interior where they might be able to steal a play here or there. But I think largely they just need to, and we saw this tactic from the Cowboys in the opener. We saw it at times, the Rams last game, shotgun 5 wide, maybe a running back where if you see you can get a double team against somebody, you might be able to get some yards. But you go shotgun spread and you just try to throw the ball real quickly and get, 3 or 4 or 5 yard chunks at a time and sort of use your passing game as your running game. I think if they do those things, they take care of the ball, they keep the Bucs in the ballpark. I think they can stay within striking distance. And then I think you need to hope for a defensive score or something that sets you up for a touchdown. And also, I think they're also going to need a special teams play in this game if they have any hopes of victory.
Oh, you'd imagine defensively they're going to throw a ton of DBs at them here and dare them to run, you have too high safety and make it really difficult for Brady or make him work for it, so to speak.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that's what you do. You go, 2 or 3 down linemen. You probably have a linebacker. You have 6 or 7 defensive backs. I do think one of the also big keys in this game, if you want to keep Brady from unleashing hell on you, you're going to have to get pressure against him in the middle, and you're going to have to hit him early. I would not mind taking a personal foul penalty early in the game.
Ouch.
Because
Bounty.
Tom Brady, when he gets hit hard,
doesn't
early
like it
in the game, he starts to see ghosts. He starts to get sped up. He starts to make mistakes, and that's really the formula. And the Patriots should know what the formula is, and so they're going to have to find a way to hit him early. Maybe you send an all-out blitz. You go maybe bare front 46 defense and just freaking throw the house at him and come at him and level him on one of the first plays of the game. And I think that's all part of the formula if the Patriots are going to stay close, which I don't think that they are.
Well, and it's an interesting thing is ideally you want to try to get home with 4 if you can, but if you can't and he's sitting back there all day long, it doesn't matter what he's looking at. Eventually he's going to find something downfield. So you're right. Maybe the tactic is sell out. Have him eat a few, take a few shots early. At least it'll be in his head. He might make a play on that play, but maybe a little bit down the line, he's going to be thinking about it.
Yeah. Sort of, lose the battle early. To win the war, where you're like, okay, he beats us, we're going to go all out blitz, but we're going to knock the crap.
We're going to hit him a few times.
And I do think, but the other side of the coin, John, is that Brady knows what the Patriots are thinking. He knows the way they have played against offenses like the Bucs. He knows that they're gonna keep everything in front of them, and Brady's going to have a counter. I'll be interested to see what the counter is. I would not be surprised if they go hurry up. The Patriots aren't exactly deep, especially in the front, and those linebackers are slow. Go hurry up on the first thing, blitz down the field. I mean, I think
he's going to know the linebackers can't cover either. He's good. Yeah.
I think Brady's coming in here to put up a 50 burger on that scoreboard, and so he wants to go as fast as possible. I mean, I think he wants revenge, and I think he's unless for some reason something tugs at his heartstrings during the game, this is going to be like remember the Titans. Run it up, Herman. Leave no doubt.
Leave no doubt. So I guess my question is, whose knowledge of whom is the bigger, it matters more here? Is it Brady knows what they're going to throw at him, or Belichick knows what it's going to take to knock off Brady? Or maybe Brady knows that Belichick knows what he knows, and around and around we go? Or is it basically a wash? There's familiarity on both sides. It comes down to execution.
I think it's a wash, but if I had to give anybody an advantage, it would be Brady, because he has a team that's been together for 2 years. I mean, Belichick's trying to, he's trying to get pieces that have been here basically for like 3 months to work in unison. And to this point, John, the biggest problem in the season is that hasn't worked. It's, they have a really nice looking car, a lot of, nice bonuses in the package that they picked up for this car, and looks really good on paper. The problem is the steering won't work right for Belichick. He's going left, they're going right. Like it's the steering's all screwed up.
Right.
With that in mind, I mean, Bill can't be the puppet master that we've seen against. Normally when they play the Chiefs and these teams, it's always late in the season. It's for sweeps. It's all that stuff. Week 4 with 11 new starters, they're not ready to pull off an upset like this. And if they do, if they do, it's going to be up there with one of Belichick's biggest coaching jobs ever, up there with the first Super Bowl.
Yeah. Well, okay. So I guess the final question is, you said Brady wants to come in, put up a 50 burger here. He's out for revenge, and that's understandable. But to whom does this game mean more? I'm going to argue Belichick needs this. Belichick needs at least a close game.
Yes.
More than Brady needs anything here, because Brady has, as we've talked about before, the big number 1 on the scoreboard, 1-0. He won a Super Bowl in year 1, first year away from the Patriots. This is going to hurt a lot for Bill Belichick if he gets absolutely, if the Patriots get absolutely obliterated.
I will say the person who gains the most if they win is Belichick. I think that upsetting Tampa Bay in this game would go a long way to offsetting the Super Bowl title last year. Who stands the most by getting blown out? I mean, it's definitely Belichick. Belichick can lose. It's got to be close. It's got to be somewhat competitive. If he gets blown out, it makes it 2-0 Brady. If it's close, then people sort of look past this and they're just like, it was early. They excuse it. But if Bill gets blown out, it's 2-0 Brady. If Belichick wins, it's 1-1 going into, down the stretch this year and what happens next year.
Yeah, and I think Belichick needs this at least to be close. I think not that it matters to him personally, but the noise will be turned up to an insane level if the Patriots fall to 1-3 after getting lit up at home by Brady and the Bucs. So I do think there's a lot on the line here, because I think fans are going to lose whatever remaining patience they have with this team if they watch Brady come in here and just dance all over the Patriots' grave. So certainly a lot to watch for. It's been a week's worth of hype, but the game is finally here. So obviously make sure you subscribe to Boston Sports Journal for all the latest and all the game action. And Greg will be down there, of course. $39 a year, $5.99 a month, 11 cents a day. All right, let's bring in Sean McAdam. We are going to talk baseball, of course, and the Boston Red Sox. And Sean, it gets worse every time you and I talk. We heading into the Yankees series, don't get swept. They got swept. Okay, fine. Take care of business against Baltimore and Washington. You'll be fine. They lose 2 out of 3 to the Orioles. Here we are. The Red Sox are tied with the Seattle Mariners for the second wildcard spot, only a game up on the Blue Jays there. And we're entering the final weekend, 3 games to play. And this is obviously going to go down to the last game of the season. And then who knows what after that. I guess the main story here, Sean, is they're just playing, after playing their best baseball seemingly at the right time. Now they're playing their worst baseball at the wrong time.
Yeah, they had a 7-game winning streak going into that Yankee series, John, and have since lost 5 of 6. And in those 5 losses, they have not scored more than 3 runs in any one of those games. And that was on display Thursday night at Camden Yards. And it's easy to say, as the Red Sox were sort of parroting after the loss on Thursday, well, we still control our destiny. That's mostly true. Because winning out doesn't guarantee them anything except the chance to keep playing maybe in a play-in game. But the point of it is, why would you feel optimistic that they're capable of taking care of their own business when they have failed to do so against an even worse team in Baltimore? The Nationals aren't very good, haven't been very good since they waved the flag and sold off half the roster at the trade deadline. But they're still better than the Orioles, and the Orioles just took 2 out of 3. So to say it's in front of them and that they control their own destiny is one thing, but we also have to go on what we've seen of late, and it's hard to have much confidence that the Red Sox are capable of flipping a switch and winning 2 out of 3 or all 3 here.
Right, and if the bats are going to go silent against what the Orioles are throwing out at you, that means there's really no guarantees. So exactly right. It's hard to feel confident here in what's going on now. What if anything is behind the slumps right now, Sean? And Xander certainly is one of the guys who's really, really struggling. And again, at the worst time, it just doesn't seem like they can count on anybody right now. Just looking ahead to this series, what has to happen for them to just put it together and at least take 2 out of 3 here and try to take it into the, to the final, play-in, playoff game, whatever it is, extend their season beyond Sunday.
Right. Well, they've simply got to have better at-bats, John. We've seen too often in 2 of the losses in Baltimore where they are, having 8 and 9 pitch innings. They're being too aggressive. It looks like a classic example of a team trying to do too much and maybe feeling the pressure. Everyone is deciding they're going to hit the ball out of the ballpark or attack the first pitch that's anywhere near the strike zone rather than zeroing in on a pitch and having a real game plan in the batter's box. It's just this aggressive approach that isn't working and is in fact, being counterproductive because they're having these 2 and 3 pitch at bats that are resulting in outs and making it easy on the other side.
Eduardo Rodriguez tonight, so we will see what happens. And again, as Alex Cora put the other day, they pretty much have to win out here. So they shouldn't be in this situation. They are in this situation, so we'll see what happens. You and I will probably talk again on Monday, and we'll know a lot more. But until then, Sean, thanks for joining.
Thanks, John.
All right, switching gears to hockey, let's bring in Conor Ryan from the Boston Sports Journal. And Conor, I know the Bruins are 3 preseason games into this, but we kind of got our first real look at an actual Bruins lineup on Thursday night at TD Garden. And you getting to see, of course, what the first line is. We've talked a lot about the second line. One thing interesting is seeing how the third line is forming in this game. And again, they played a Flyers team that didn't really bring all of their A players. So take everything with a grain of salt, but so far this line has looked really good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you are accurate in terms of you have to put expectations in check a little bit in terms of preseason play, as you said, against the Flyers. But I think if you're the Bruins, you have to be very encouraged by what you saw from that third line, which has a lot of different moving pieces, right? You've got a new guy down the middle in Erik Haula, who has dealt with injuries in the past. Nick Foligno, there's conversations about how much he really has left in the tank. And you've got Jake Debrusk, who has been here for a while, but what kind of Debrusk are you going to get kind of remains to be seen. But so far, how they've all played off each other, I think is probably one of the more encouraging things you've seen from this preseason. I mean, Debrusk has been in 2 games. Howell have been in 2 games, pretty much played with each other during those matchups. And they look pretty good. I think the one thing Cassidy noted that I think anyone who's watching these games has spotted is that the pace is a little bit different with that line.
That's it. And I think the most important thing for Debrusk, who had just such a bad year last year, I mean, the worst of his career, and just playing with a lot of more jump, more purpose. It just looks different. Just the eye test early on looks like a different guy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for DeBrusk, as much as he's a noted goal scorer, he almost hit 30 a few years ago. His style is pretty much, north south. It's nothing flashy. It's getting to the front of the net and driving plays, getting grade A looks. And a guy like Howla more or less keeps it simple. It plays the same way, straight north south. And even though maybe a guy like Foligno, pace isn't the first word that comes to mind when you look at his game, I think he does little things that can impact that line, whether it's being one of the first guys in on the forecheck, whether it's, creating space at the net front, causing havoc down low. Those little plays mixed with a guy like DeBrusk, who, when he's on his game, has a nose for the net. Those, I think, are the small plays that lead to quality chances. And it seems like right now they have a good mix in place to kind of all play off each other, which when it was DeBrusk with Krejci, who's a little bit more of a cerebral guy, with Coyle, where it's a lot more holding on to the puck, sometimes it just seemed like those spots were a little bit out of whack. This way, the way this group's set up right now, you hope they're able to play off each other a little bit more, and it leads to goals on the board.
Yeah. Another thing that's really easy to notice is Taylor Hall, who looks like Taylor Hall. And again, this is obviously something, again, we've talked about how much the Bruins needed someone like him. Again, seeing him kind of driving the offense on that second line, but also seeing him on PP1 and what he can do there. Again, I think whatever they got from Taylor Hall last year, I think it's reasonable to expect another level this year in terms of the type of player you can get, which we've talked about on this pod, could be maybe closer to New Jersey MVP level Taylor Hall type of play, which is really what that's the pie in the sky, but it's not unreasonable to expect that you could get a version that closely resembles that.
Yeah, I think especially where he's on that top power play unit, he can kind of just sit around and collect, rebound goals.
Mr.
And
Net front presence, right?
Yeah, exactly. And even though, Taylor Hall doesn't fit the profile of a typical net front guy, you see the way the Bruins kind of utilize him. And for Bruce Cassidy, a net front isn't just, a Nick Ritchie, a guy who plants himself down low and gets tips and rebounds. It's a lot of puck retrieval, forcing the puck back out to the blue line or to Marchand at the half wall. And a guy like Taylor Hall, who's got wheels, is great at that, at retrieving pucks, fishing it back out, generating chances when they're there. So you look at him on that power play, how he complements the guys already there. And on that second line, again, we've talked about it before, where he's almost like the new Krejci, where
right.
You have to see how the pieces fall into place, but even just him in his own game, whether it's in transition, zone entries, all those things, he's kind of making something out of nothing every time he touches the puck, which is very good for the Bruins.
Yeah, he's going to generate a lot of the offense on that second line, as opposed to Krejci, again, who it was his style, as you said, as cerebral, always good with the puck, finding the right guys at all times, just never had anybody who could bury the biscuit. But Hall, as you said, all of the stuff that he does is huge. Now, the question, we wouldn't be, we can't get through one of these without talking about Jack Studnicka, but it's hard not to, because, and again, a couple games ago, he really flashed, and he's in that 2C role as Coyle kind of works his way back, and it's a full-blown audition. So again, from what you've seen in the practices and the games so far, what's the likelihood this sticks? And if it doesn't, where does he go? Where does he go from here? Where do you put him? Especially, you like that third line now. So what do you do with this guy?
Yeah, it's a tough situation, especially when you look at that third line, as you said. Is he going to grab the 2C job? I think it's pretty unlikely at this point. I think it was already a long shot going into this, because I think with Coyle getting back, I think Cassidy really wants to see how he fares in that role. But for Studnicka, it's one of those spots where, again, the offense didn't pop in that win over the Flyers, but post-game, Bruce Cassidy, his kind of comments on Studnicka weren't like, he wasn't producing. It was a lot of praise for kind of the 200-foot aspect of his game, of the details, which I think for Cassidy means a lot for these younger players in terms of what they need to do to get in the lineup and stay there. Problem is, where does Studnicka fit, right? Is he a fourth line guy?
See, that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, that's the problem, right?
Yeah, and that's what I think is, I don't know if he fits, but I do think a bump down works, where you could see maybe a Foligno going down to the fourth line, and whether Studnicka centers that third line or Coyle plays there or on the wing, if you decided that you wanted to do that. I think that is what would make most sense here, but I am curious what they want to do, because if that third line is clicking, you don't want to break up the flow just because you've got to move pieces around and they don't fit other places. So it's interesting to see what happens to him if he doesn't. I think what's so interesting, and the reason we keep talking about him, is you're looking for a higher ceiling out of that position, and I think Studnicka might have it. maybe, we don't know, and that's what I think people are searching for. But I agree. I think Coyle is the likely guy there.